First things first, James, how are you?
I'm very well, man. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah.
What I want to start with is, and I'm not entirely sure if this is true, but after touring the last record, you went and stayed on the road, so to say. You traveled a bit.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, that's completely true. Yeah.
Why?
Because I was working on the record already, and I was enjoying it, and I think that if I had stayed at home, I think I just would have gotten a bit like comfortable, or I don't know. It was just working, and I wanted to keep it going. I wanted to keep whatever was happening. So I just decided to keep moving, keep traveling.
Okay. Where did you go?
Initially went to Barcelona for a couple of months. Then we went and did some touring for most of that February. This was like 2015.
Right.
So I had more shows to come up, because that was the thing. Like I started working on this record sort of midway through the album cycle of the last album. So like we went out and did more shows in February and March through like the US, and then once they were done, I moved into a place in LA for like 6 months, and then went and made the record in October in Toronto.
Do you notice in between these places that the music is different that you wrote, say, in Barcelona in comparison to what you wrote in LA?
I think I was writing different things at different moments. So I was working on this group of songs the whole time, so like I couldn't pinpoint what was brought out by each place. It definitely, definitely each place served a different purpose. Like Barcelona, for instance, it was January, February in Barcelona, which is like the quiet months there. So the city is almost like a shell of itself. It's like not a lot of people around, no tourists. It's just really low key, which is interesting, because I have always been to Barcelona during like warm months. Even when we play shows, it's always quite sort of vibrant. So to be there when it was like very quiet and very like just like tumbleweed, it was just really strange. It's a strange time. So that was really good for me for like just the initial writing, because there wasn't that much to do. So I was just sitting in an apartment just like writing all the time and just like sketching out the basic ideas. And then when I got to Los Angeles, I was going out more and seeing more people, and I was talking more about like making the record at that point. It was also a lot warmer, and I think the warmth in the record definitely came through from being in Los Angeles, because then I ended up making most of it in Toronto in October, November, so it was really cold then. So any warmth that came through in this album was kind of like conceived when it was in Los Angeles rather than the rest of it. So.
And you say you made these sketches in Barcelona. Would you start with lyrics generally, or because it's quite a solitary thing then at that point, I think?
Yeah, I think in terms of like the lyrics, there's never a set routine for me. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. Like the thing with this album was actually most of the lyrics that were initially sort of sketched out around that time in Barcelona, a lot of it stayed the same. The songs tended to change a lot, but the initial, that's new for me. Normally I wouldn't write lyrics until very close to the end. But with this one, I was just, whatever was coming into my head, I don't know, it just seemed to work. And so a lot of the songs changed, and when the producers came in and added more stuff to them, but the lyrics tended to stay the same. So a lot of the lyrics was sort of like written around the Barcelona moment, and then also in Los Angeles as well. We're kind of finished off, which is different for me. Normally it's the other way around. Normally the music is written first, and then the songs kind of come later, or the lyrics come later.
In hindsight, do you know why this change? Or
yeah, for sure. I know exactly why. It's because it needed to be like a clearer album, like more concise and easier for people to understand, and kind of easier for me to understand as well. So I think if I'm given a lot of time to write lyrics, they'll tend to become a little bit more obscure. Whereas I just didn't want that to be the case with this album. So there was like a conscious choice on my part to not do the thing that I'd done before. Like, put it this way, like everything that I've done up to this point, I did the opposite. Which some people might say is kind of crazy, because I've been quite successful to this point, but I don't think about it that way. I think about whatever will give me the best thing that I can achieve. And with this album, I knew that if I was going to create the thing that I needed to create, I needed to do everything differently. And that means, like I say, like if a lyric was written down, that it wouldn't change, because in the past I would have changed it.
Well, this is interesting because, well, this attitude, you kind of had that all throughout your career, because after the first album you did quite well, but then you didn't want to do the same thing, so you wanted to change it up, and now again. So,
yeah.
Was that in the back of your mind, how people kind of received the second album? Because you say you started during that cycle.
Yeah, I think that it's not necessarily about reacting to the thing that happened before and changing. Like, I've always had a plan.
Okay.
Part of my plan has been to change the things that aren't working,
right,
or to change the things that I want to change in order to make the thing closer to what I have in my head. So the fact that things change is just, it feels like a natural progression of the musical career for me. Not necessarily, some people don't do that. Some people like have an idea and then they repeat the idea, and sometimes it gets better and sometimes it gets worse, and there's no right or wrong way. So I think with me, the fact that things change is because it has to change. Like it has to get better, and better to me is change. So the fact that this record is different from the ones before is just the way it was always supposed to be. And there's like I said, there's an element of risk in it. You know, you have to be prepared to. I think between the first record and the second record, you know, it's funny. It's interesting to me anyway, because we obviously finished at a certain place on the first album, and then on the second album we finished here. But at the same time, I also probably lost a lot of people from the first record to the second record, and then new people came and made up that shortfall. But there is a risk there that, like, you're going to, a lot of people that came to me because they were like, oh, you're a guy that plays guitar and I like people that play guitar. And then I chose to not do that on the second album because it's never been the thing that I wanted to define me, and I wanted other things to define me. You have to accept that certain people are not going to like that. That's just part of the risk of it, and you have to hope that eventually, once you tell the full story, which I feel like I am with this third record, that those people will still be interested enough to pay attention. That's the risk.
And you mentioned the lyrics and kind of you wanted to do it, writing something down and not overthinking it. So what was maybe the first song that you wrote, or the first bits of lyric that
for this
came
album?
Out?
Yeah. I think the one that I can remember, because I think I played 2 or 3 in fact, when I was in the UK the other day, I was on a radio show, and the presenter reminded me that when I was in Austin for South by Southwest in 2015, I actually played the song that I played on his radio show at like an earlier version of it. So that was it's a song called Evil, which is like the 5th song on the record. And I think that was like March of 2015, and I had that song pretty much written. Like the bridge was different, and it's interesting that I played it because the version that I played, it was like on radio too, so it's like a big thing. So I must have played it for like millions of people, but that version doesn't exist anymore. So I was trying out songs at that point, which again is something new for me.
Well, do you know what at that time you kind of wanted for the song? Do you know what you were getting at?
Yeah, I did, and that's why I played it live, was because I'd never done that before either. I'd never taken the chance of playing a song before it was finished in front of people and having them sort of judge it. Like, having someone judge your work before it's finished is a very unsettling thing. But it's actually really important, I think now, because it takes it out of the abstract and makes it real and tangible. And once that happens, people have an idea of that song, you also have an idea, and that will then impact, because at that point the song was still fairly new, hadn't really been produced up to any level. It was just me with the guitar, so it could have gone any different number of ways. And once I played it, for instance, I realized that the bridge on the song was all wrong, so I changed it. I was stuck on this one lyric that I loved for the bridge, but it just wasn't working, and I was like, I'm gonna make this work, and I just kept playing it at shows, and it just wasn't connecting. And then I changed it, so worthwhile, even though I played it in front of millions of people, like at an early stage. It's all part of that process now.
And with a song like Evil, but also the others, do the lyrics kind of pop up, or do you set out to write about a certain theme or a certain topic?
No, I don't set out with any agenda. Like the song what's good about it is that even though I've changed how I've written, the way the songs have come has still been the same.
Okay.
So the chorus of that song and the first lyric, they tend to be the things that I always write first. Okay. I'll have the first line of the song, and then I'll have the idea for the chorus, or the refrain, or whatever the hook happens to be. And I had those on that song. So the process has changed, but the actual way the song comes has always fundamentally stayed the same for me, which is a relief, because I'd hate it if it fully changed or if I had to rediscover it or something.